Hey guys, welcome back to Gardens, the Untold Story. I'm your host, Ken Somerville, my co-host, Andy Lopez, the Invisible Gardener. And today we're going to talk about how to provide trace minerals to your garden. This is a topic that is really important for anybody that's trying to grow plants because trace minerals are very, very important, not only in a plant, but in our bodies as well. And Andy, we can get those trace minerals from what we eat, but only if the trace minerals are there. So take it away, Andy. How to provide trace minerals to your garden.
Hi, everybody. So, if you've been following me around for a while, you notice I talk a lot about, now we call it the biology. In the past, I've called it microbes, invisible gardeners down there in the soil. And those are the biology. So we want to make sure we understand that when we talk about biology and trace minerals, are two separate things. Mm-hmm. Okay, a lot of people are keyed into getting the trace minerals, but they don't seem to understand that. So in other words, I've gotten a couple of people call me up and talk to me. So I went to the store and I bought this. It's got 80 trace minerals in it. It's got iron and this and zinc and mercury. And it says, all you got to do is dump it in the ground. How's that? And I go, well, see, that's the last thing you really want to do. Yep. That's the last thing you want to do. Because you can get trace minerals that are chemically made or natural sources of trace minerals and dump them everywhere. I got another friend who said, I put 5 pounds of calcium over here and 10 pounds of iron over there because that tree's different than this one. I put 4 pounds of Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate over here. And it's like, and then he wonders why there's all kinds of problems because they're not really concentrating on how the trace minerals end up in the plants and us in the first place. They don't seem to understand, and that's what you really want. You want to be able to put the minerals in your garden in such a way that it ends up back in you. It ends up back in you and your body and your animal, whatever food you're eating. Because that's the whole purpose. Or in the plant and the tree, but you're also feeding your property. So that's what you have to think about. Because a lot of people buy and nowadays it's even more confusing because people go out and another lady contacted her. She says, I bought this organic fertilizer. It has, alfalfa meal. It's got a bunch of other stuff in it. And it's got rock dust, lots of trace minerals. But I've been applying it. I'm not getting any results. Nothing's happening. And then
Andy, I like to look at it this way, brother. It's like buying a car, but forgetting to put gas in it.
Right. And nothing's going to happen. And then she goes and says, my next door neighbor complained to Bill, my next door neighbor. It wasn't happening, so he brought over with his fertilizer. It was like some kind of 20 fertilizer, and he put it under her fruit trees. And the fruit tree is looking really good and green now. It's really looking great. I still have problems with it, but it's looking really good. How come the organic fertilizer didn't work, but this chemical worked?
Yep.
And it's really very simple in that, first of all, you have to understand they may be looking really good to you, but that tree is super stressed out. It's pumped out down cocaine. It's like that.
Like a bodybuilder on steroids.
Every bug in the plant is going, ooh, my, look at that, right? You talked about the refractometer and the bricks and how the insects can see. They have a built-in refractometer in their eyes, and they can see that plant, the bricks level is like a 5, but it looks really good, really pumping iron kind of thing. It's really super green and all that stuff. Yeah. And what's interesting too, my experience has been, when you go up, you will come down. So they think that, especially when you do it this way, so if you have a citrus, there's that 5 or 6, and you give it this 20 fertilizer, it's going to pump it up to where it'll be on the 20 bricks level very shortly, because a lot of these things are really high concentrated forms of sugar, and they will give you a sugar rush. So you get this boing goes up to 23. How long it stays up there? That's another story, because if you were doing it organically and naturally, and you were providing trace minerals to the bacteria, and the bacteria were digesting it, doing whatever they take to turn it into a liquid nutrient that then the plants can absorb, which then we can absorb. The bricks level will not only go up, but it'll stay up there. It'll just stay up there. It will not come down. It will not, what do you call it, fall down, fall down to below from where you were before. And so that's what these fertilizers do, because they will pump you up right away, whoop, and they're going to come down worse than before, and you're going to have to either do it again or apply some kind of chemical pesticide or something, because the bugs they're going to go nuts. This is perfect food for them. That plant.
And you know what you were describing really sounds like, people that are overweight that do yo-yo dieting. It's good for a little while, but then it gets worse.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's why I relate to sugar a lot, because when people they get really, really high on this sugar rush, and then they have they come down afterwards. It's really like, oh my God, right? And we do that. And so we not only do it to the plants, but we do it to ourselves. It's very interesting, the relationship. And so people have to understand that and a lot of this trace minerals and the biology has to really be doing what I'm talking about is you. Not so much you, Ken, but you out there. You're the biology, okay? And how you take your trace minerals, a friend of mine says it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb.
Yeah.
That came from Michelle. I thought that was very, very smart, very intuitive, because that fact hits in a nutshell. And that, so you have these chemical fertilizers you immediately absorb, because you don't need the root hairs, you don't need the microbes or biology to transfer it. It's just open up, give me a needle shot in there, right? Because that's exactly what it is. You get this shot of these nutrients, which happen to be not normally found in nature, right? You don't find these things in nature. And so, they go up. The bricks will shoot up to the roof, 20, 23, 22, and they're like, uh-oh. You know how you're going up, and the cartoon goes up, all of a sudden, you start going down again, and you go down really, really hard. You really, really super crash. And the way people have been dealing with it now, spray some pesticide on it. Let's spray something on it. This is normal. It goes up, goes down. It's normal. That's just they expected that when you go up like that and you start to crash, that's when the bugs are moving in. The pests and diseases are moving in. So if you want to get rid of a pest and disease, the last thing you want to do is give a chemical fertilizer to the plant, because it may look good, but the bug's going to have a lot more food on its hand afterwards. And there's a big difference. And so people have to understand that trace minerals means trace. Tiny, weeny little bit of amount. And the only way that really, really works is because the microbes are tiny, really also too. They don't work in large scale. They take it at a microscopic level that then they can convert it, and it's still in this level where it can be fed through other biologies, and their job is to say, okay, give me the thing, right? And they get it into the plant. They literally inject stuff into the plant, and they suck it right into it, and the body starts absorbing it. But it's in a form, and it's not in any kind of, it's not really in. So when we talk about high nitrogen, we say high nitrogen, right? You don't find high nitrogen in nature. The highest you're going to get is like maybe bad guano, which is maybe 12, right? You may even urine is like 0.001. It's not really. I don't think that there are some bird types of poop, and that maybe have, but 12 is about it. Whereas the chemicals we use is 64. That's urea. And you're not going to find that in nature. You're just not going to find that in nature.
Well, isn't urea made as a petroleum product? So it's coming from oil?
I'm not 100% sure. That sounds familiar, because it's not naturally made, right? Yeah. And there may be a petroleum product that does come from oil. I'm not really sure. Somebody out there would have. Okay, Sally, did you get it? She should be looking it up right now. But you may be right, because these things are not made the way Mother Nature makes it. They're made the way we make it. And a lot of times we make things from these other chemicals like petroleum. Lots of things come from wheat, for example. They make so many different kinds of pesticides from wheat, the kind of wheat that we're supposed to be eating, right? So we can create all kinds of things that are not found in nature. The nitrogen that's in chemical fertilizers are not found in nature. The highest you get is 12, maybe 13, 14 if you're lucky. And one of the interesting things about high nitrogen that man makes is that, and I may have mentioned it before, is that it inhibits the absorption of trace minerals in the plants. And we don't have high nitrogen problem. Our body doesn't have it, but it's kind of very similar, because when we have this high sugar content, we have a high sugar content, right, rather than a high nitrogen. What am I supposed to be looking up? I missed. I'm not going to tell you that. This will teach you to pay attention, grasshopper.
Oh man, I'm gonna get into trouble for that one, Andy. Okay.
So we were talking about where urea, man-made urea, comes from, how they make it. Ken here thinks it's made from petroleum. That it's a petroleum-based product. So look it up. It sounds very familiar because tons of stuff comes from petroleum. Okay, tons of stuff, but not just petroleum, but lots of other things that are. If urea is a petroleum. That's
what silly Lily's supposed to be looking up.
Yeah, right. That's what she's supposed to be looking up, and I'm pretty dang sure that it is. And it's not. You would think it's made from animal manure, and it's not. It doesn't come anywhere near an animal. The closest will be that is named after urine in an animal. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, "Hey, I can make this. I could do better." The logic was a little is good, a lot is better. So this little 0.0001% nitrogen in this animal is so good. Let's do it 64.
Urea is now prepared commercially in vast amounts from liquid ammonia and liquid carbon dioxide.
So that's close. It's close to petroleum.
We're talking about, the amount of trace minerals, and guys, it's parts per million and parts per billion. So a cell may only need 1 or 2 molecules of boron, and that, like, 1 grain, like a size of a piece of sand, might be able to do 1,000 or 2,000 plants, because you're looking at the molecular level. It's like when you're building a house, you only need so many roof rafters to build the house. So it's not a lot, but it's very important. If you don't have them, instead of building by 2 by 6, you're building by 2 by 2, and it's gonna fall apart. So, Andy, the best way to get to those trace minerals, or best way to provide those trace minerals, is what we're supposed to be talking about.
And we're going to get to it. So
right.
You mentioned something that's really very, very interesting. In that these trace minerals are in the weight is molecular. They're at the molecular side, very, very teeny weeny little side. That's why everything happens on that very small level. The way it's built, the way it makes everything. And normally in nature, the biology has no problem coming up with all these different kinds of trace minerals that are available throughout the earth, because of the way everything has been intermingled together, right? The way everything gets intermingled. You see how the earth has a way of mixing everything together. Everything ends up different parts of the world. Other stuff ends up over here, And so that's the way it's supposed to be. And but for me, one of the things we have to be real, we have to pay attention to, is that we do need a wide range of minerals, and as well as we need a wide range of biology. So if you have the minerals but not the biology, it's not going to help you. If you have the biology but not the minerals, it's not going to help you. So it's not just what is the best way to provide minerals to your garden, but how is the best way to have a sustainable source of minerals and microbes, biology for your garden. That would be more like a logical question to say, what can I do on my garden that will ensure that it will start producing not only the trace the biology, because the biology they look around and take the trace minerals wherever it is. What is it that we can do to make it a sustainable system that down the road you don't have to do anything because the biology and the trace minerals are already doing this thing. That's what we have to think about, and that's what we have to do in the long run, rather than think that we constantly be providing trace minerals and we can constantly be providing biology, but that's only so limited. You can only do that forever. So one of us is going to stop doing that. And it's not going to work. But what we want to do is there you go, it's minerals and soil, And it's
So
yeah.
This is actually, guys, is a worldwide study. You'll find it in most agronomy books at the very beginning, where this is sand that they tested globally, and this is the average of the minerals that are in the sand. So we're talking trace minerals. Well, these are the elements, selenium, carbon, calcium, magnesium, lignium, your nitrogen, your phosphorus. This is in one grain of sand, guys. That's why I keep saying that sand is so important. But without the biology to mine that sand, you're not going to get any of this available nutrients that's there. And that's why, Andy, we talk about, having to add these things. So what are some of the best ways that you found, my friend, to add trace minerals into our soils?
So I know you tried guiding me in that direction, but I want to do one more thing. So that chart you showed only shows about maybe 20 or 30 trace minerals. There's 90 of them. So either they're saying there's not found in the crust, or they're saying we just didn't look all the way through for all of it. Because that's the way it should be. They should be able, everything we need should be found in our planet. We don't need to really go anywhere. It should be here. That's the bottom line. And so the best way is, if it really depends on a variety of things, because I find that a lot of homeowners don't really have a farm. They have no ability to do that on their place. I mean, if it was up to me, I would say, I would have a farm, and the farm would have all the animals, everything I need, and that's the best place to do it. Because I would of course bring sources of trace minerals from around the world and help Mother Nature do that. Because normally what Mother Nature does, so I would get rock dust from different parts of the world, have it shipped to me. You only need a small amount. Remember, it's trade. A 50-pound bag will last me years and years and years of azomite, for example. You only need it, and I still got 20, 50-pound bags here that it's maybe forever in my lifetime to actually go through those suckers. I only need a little bit every year. But so and there are other sources of trace minerals that are becoming more and more available. I talk about the C90, SEA90, which is 90 trace minerals. And then I was watching Barbara Nelson talk about salt and different kinds of Celtic salts and different kinds of salt from different parts of the world, and how many trace minerals that they have. And so the Celtic salt is 72 trace minerals. And so there are, and then when we talk a lot about weeds and what weeds do and how they bring up minerals, because the biodynamic system is very, very specific, that you can get all your minerals from all your plants. Because if you know your plants, different plants will bring different minerals, so you can compost them, and there's your minerals. That's what you do. If you know this plant's rich in iron, and you put that in your compost setup. And so it really also depends on where you live and how what ability you have to be more of in touch with nature, as opposed to in touch with your city rules and your city environment that you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with a city environment, you may have a hard time just having chickens, let alone a chicken and a rooster and other kinds of animals. So if you're in a city environment, you're going to have to, and you're lucky to have a yard and a lawn, grass, and something growing. You're going to have to be bringing in both the biology and the trace minerals. So you're going to have to find. That's why a garden club is so important. I go to a bunch of different garden clubs, and I find that one of the things I like about these guys, man, they make each one. One guy was telling me the other day, I make the best compost in the world. I said, good for you. I'll take 4 bags. I'll take 4 bags. I was just talking to somebody today. I bought, Michael was on Michael Whitman's place. I bought 2 of his special top of the line compost that he makes. Okay, $60 for 40 pounds, but that's the best he makes. And then I also have Layton's compost. So when you're good at making this compost, everyone's going to be different how they make it, right? And so I've learned, and I'm not going to compete. When I was making my compost, I was telling people this is the best compost on the planet. This is the best compost anybody ever going to find, because it was really good. I learned how to make it, and it really works. But so now what I do is I realize other people are making really good compost, so you want to get their compost. And if so ideally you want to attend a garden club, be friends with people at the nurseries, or where you get compost around here. You want to get local sources, because unless you live in an entirely city environment where you don't have the ability, you may have to drive out into the country, right, to find something, right, to bring it back into your property. So you're going to have to be very active in reducing toxic, because you can't have biology. We talked about biology, right? And we also talk about toxins. If you have biology, you have toxins. Guess who's going to win out? The toxins are going to win. Unless you have plenty of time, and we got millions of years, the biology will eventually win out, because we'll be dead. The biology will eat up the toxins, and everything will be nice and clean. So we know that. But we're talking about in our lifetime, if we want to have a biological alive environment, we have to constantly be fighting the toxins. It means you have to get city water filtered stop using the city water that you're sprinkling on your lawn and all that stuff. You have to stop that. You have to start bringing biology back into the property. Allow your property to make soil. Allow your soil to be inoculated with the biology of the compost. Get good compost. Put it around on a regular basis. You should be adding rock dust, compost, and mulch. This is basically.
So should you be adding your trace minerals in your compost, or should you be adding it separately, Andy? And how to add it, like powder, or
again? So if you're lucky enough to make compost, if you have a yard, you have a place to make it, you put it together. You have the rock dust, and you have all the stuff that goes to making your compost. You make that together. You put it together. So if you're lucky enough to do that, that's the best, because then I know, oh, look, I added 12 different kinds of rock dust to it, or I added this, added all that, biochar, all this stuff. This dynamite compost, and boom. Because that's how do you know? The only way you know what kind of compost you have if you make it. So otherwise than that, you have to say, okay, Michael, what did you put in your compost? How do you make your compost? All that So once you get to know that, like Lopez, that they make good compost, fine. I'll go with that.
Well, one thing I want to point out, and Leighton mentioned this the other day, what he does is he'll literally take a fast starting seeds, and he'll spread the seeds out on what he thinks is finished compost. And if the seeds sprout, and are nice and green and lush, and the compost is done, if they sprout and they're having issues and leaf curl, it's not done yet. So that's a very simple way to check to see if your compost is any good and if it's done.
I have to count the times, all the years that I have been making compost, and I would say I've been making compost 40 years at least. Maybe I haven't been making it.
Oh, you're not that old, Andy. You're only in your 20s, aren't you?
I wish, but I've learned to you literally to smell it. You literally can look and see. You can taste to see what's going on. You can tell if it's ready, and if it's not yet, the plants are going no, because it's too ripe. It's not. It hasn't been processed yet by the biology. It hasn't been converted to what you can use. A lot of times, people try to make compost, and it isn't ready, so it's still it actually is rotting. It rots. I tell people, the difference between when you're making compost and when your compost is rotting, right? Rotting. Yeah. There's a big difference. And your plants are not going to survive in the rotting food. And so you have to, ideally, you make your own compost, and you become a fanatic at getting different things to put in it. If you can't do that, you find somebody else who's a fanatic making their own compost. Buy it from that person. Take that and start inoculating that onto your property on a regular basis. And then even then, so if this guy that makes it, somebody else is making it, they're adding rock dust and different sorts, you don't have to do that. But if you don't know, if the guy didn't tell you, he says, you have rock dust, and he has a silent look, okay, well, then he's making it as best as he can make it, right? He's just not really hip to the trace minerals thing. So he made it so it looks really good, all that stuff in it, but it may have the biology, but the trace minerals have obviously not been added, because he would say, yeah, I added this, I added that, I added this, with it, unless he's like even in the biodynamic system, they would say, oh yeah, I got some plants, I got this plant, I got that plant, I got this plant, because they know those has the trace the minerals in. And even then, you'll find that Rudolf Steiner was into rock dust, because he would acknowledge the different alluvium clays, alluvium gravel, all these different things that basically grind up rock dust.
Yeah, it's in a paste.
Right. So the key is like cooking. So when I love food from people that really know how to cook, how to blend the things together, make it really healthy. You can eat that. See, and that's the key in terms of the compost. The compost is actually the key to everything. Somebody makes this really like. I think that Layden should have his own garden on property to put his compost in. The same thing Michael does. Michael puts his compost in his property. His property shows it. And when I was living in the place that my garden, I'm starting to do it here. And I wish I could make compost because it shows it. The property shows it. You can tell that you're doing something right in terms of biology and trace minerals. You can tell things are going like, woo, hippity-doo, that's hippity-doo. The bugs are laughing. Everybody's having a great time. Nobody's stressed out. Everybody's got all the food that they need. Across the street, they have white flies, all kinds of diseases, all kinds of stuff happening. The people themselves are sick. So you know you're doing something right. So that's the key to it, is to be in touch with people who does think the way you think, right? And they find somebody that makes really good compost. That's the key right there. And if you talk to the guy and say, oh, you also use rock dust, you're in heaven, because if he makes it for you and really, really good, start bringing it home, putting it under the tree. Not just put it under, but turn it over into the ground, put it in the ground, turn it over, inoculate your ground with it, so that eventually, you'll find worms there. That's what happens to it. A lot of people call me up and say that there's worms here. What are you doing? Did you bring the worms? I said, yes, ma'am, I did. Worms and mushrooms. And that's what the two things that keep calling. Like right now, when it rains, I go spray a place. A couple of days they call me up. There are worms and mushrooms here. Oh my God! What should we do? And I'm going, obviously you haven't seen any of my shows,
And no doubt. And when you have those mushrooms and you have those worms, oh, guess what? You have living soil now. That's what you want, people.
The mushrooms will come up where the mycelium is.
Yeah.
And the mycelium is part of the web, of the soil web. And if you have that there, then they have the biology functioning. No mycelium, no soil web, no biology functioning. If you don't have that functioning, then you basically are just it's like you're intravenous feeding. You're injecting food into your body, and you feel a little, you're okay, so I'm okay, but you're not. You're going to die horribly because your stomach's not working, your brain's not functioning, you're slowly dying. And that's what. So for trace minerals, you have to get trace minerals into your body, and that different places sell these trace minerals that you buy, you take it, shoot them. So that's not the best way for you to get trace minerals into your body. God didn't say, okay, from now on you have to get trace minerals in your body. You have to go to the pharmacy store and buy the stuff and get it into your body. Green sand, it's called New Jersey green sand. It's because it's come off the coast of New Jersey. It's got over 80 different trace minerals. I started using that in 1970. I heard about it when I got out of the service, and I was looking at it. Because one of the things about New Jersey, it's called New Jersey green sand, but it's green sand from around the world, and it's a special type of biology that was decayed and became this kind of rock shells. It's a shell of a living creature that died. These are the shell. Very high in phosphorus, and basically soft rock phosphate is what it comes down to, which is really a key to the function of all living things, because we all need it to be able to the glue, right? The glue that we use to build our cell structure with, and so so green sand is excellent to use. It's difficult to make a tea out of it because it just doesn't dissolve in water. It's been sitting in the ocean for a long, long time. The best thing to do is run it through your compost system. Let the biology get at it, and then we'll break it up. You won't be able to find it at all, but you'll see it in the, if you make a tea out of it, then you'll see it in the liquid because it does show up. It converts it from an insoluble form to a soluble form.
Yeah.
See, right? Which is really cool because the insoluble means it was sitting in the bottom of that ocean for thousands of years, right? It's not going to dissolve. That salt water is not going to dissolve it. But when the biology takes it and eats it and pisses it out, it's in a different form.
Well, yeah, because the biology is designed to pull those molecules out of that substrate to give it back to not only more biology and making their own bodies, but then that can actually benefit into your plants. And that's where, if you're making your own soils, guys, green sand, alfalfa, different rock dusts, azomite, etc., are all some of the components that you can put in. But then cook it for at least 30 days. Keep it moist. Let it compost with those materials. Let the biology eat it all up, break it all down, then give that to your plants.
Here's the key to it. So when I started doing this, making compost, I realized really, really fast, what I want to do is I want to get rock dust and manure together as soon as possible. When the animal poops, literally, I wanted to poop on rock dust I had laid down already for it, because the two bind the rock dust like a 200 mesh, really fine powder type of thing. The bacteria suck it right up. They become glued together. Then the bacteria takes forever. The biology takes forever to eat it, and it converts it to a very interesting liquid, which is basically soft rock phosphate. But phosphate is very, very essential for building your soil structures, the whole 10 yards of building. And I've learned that the sooner you get. So when I would go out and get chicken manure, I would sprinkle it with. So what I would do is I still do that. I have here about 12 different kinds of rock dust. They're from different parts of the United States. I even got some from a few other places. But you don't really need a whole lot. You just need a little bit, because you blend them all together, equal parts. And that's one of the issues for me now. It's so dusty, right? I have to wear a mask. Yeah. And so I'm sort of getting away from that. I'm learning how to find other sources. I'm so happy that I discovered C90, because that's 90 trace minerals right there. See? Yeah. And I discovered.
Hold on, Andy. I just want to break in for a moment, because we're talking C90 is a salt, and I know we're always harping on salts are bad for you, for when you're growing, but we're not talking the same type of thing. The salts they put in your liquid fertilizers is a whole different aspect, and it's the volume. Remember, it's micronutrients, and you want very little. You don't have to put a lot of C90 into a large volume of water to have the balance right, where in these liquid nutrients that people are buying that are salt based, it's a lot. That's why it's being force fed, because the water is forced into the cells due to the salt. That's why when I drink my reverse osmosis water, I put the salt in it, because that helps get the water molecules into my cells. We don't want you to be using, C90 by the cupful in 100 gallons of water. It would be like not even a teaspoon in 100 gallons of water is more the ratio you want. So sorry, Andy, I interrupted you there, brother.
Actually, one of the things I wanted to say before I forget, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that just comes up while you're talking, which is really cool. But people, make sure you understand there's a big difference between salt that Mother Nature makes, which takes millions of years to do, and salt that people make. That's the big difference. So when you buy a product that's got salt in it, if it's not a natural source, it's man-made, and the man-made is what you don't want. You can't. There's nothing in there. As a matter of fact, it depletes you of minerals. you become calcium deficient right off the bat just by you. Whereas this other stuff, it's still rich in all the minerals because Mother Nature has taken millions of years to make this stuff.
Yeah. Now, Andy Shawnee wants to know where do I get rock dust at? And we should have actually mentioned the company because I know you've got a company you like to talk about where you've been getting your rock dust for years. Other than the C90, Shawnee, because that C90 has 90 trace minerals. So
And that C is SEA 90.
Yeah.
SEA 90, right? But the rock dust is not so hard to get to, believe it or not. Let me see if Lily can do it. So Lily, it's called remineralize.org.
Yeah, I know we've brought it up on several shows that we've had before.
Remineralize.org. Remineralize.org. Remineralize. Come on, Silly, you got it. Pull it up. Anyway, that's a really cool place. Joanna Campy is a good friend of mine. I keep trying to get her on here, but she's so busy these days, it's just not happening. John Haymaker is another friend of mine. He wrote a book called Remineralization of the Earth. And both are very interesting when they start talking about rock dust because we go way, way back. But you want to, so there are, and at this website, remineralize.org, there's a whole section called resources, and they cover all the different sources of rock. There you go. Remineralize.org. Thank you, Sally. She's a robot, she's a really true AI. And you go there and you'll look up resources, look up your state. And if you're in a state of shock, then you won't find it. But basically, it's every state in the United States. And then there's some states outside of the United States around the world. I would concentrate on what you can find in the United States, locally in Canada, maybe in Central America. Believe me, you don't want to get things from Africa. You pay $700 for shipping. Even though I have done that. New Jersey green sand is also a form of rock dust. Soft rock phosphate is another form of rock dust. I also get, you can also get a different really good collection. It's called Down to Earth.
Yeah, Down to Earth.
Down to Earth, and I believe they're in Canada.
I've gotten a couple of products up here, but a lot of their products aren't available in Canada. But yeah, and guys, if you have a rock quarry or you have a company in your area that's cutting stone for say tabletops, etc., ask them if you can get the powder that comes off from cutting. That's rock dust, guys. So, and if you've got a company that's doing countertops and they're using 20 different types of stone, well, you can get 20 different types of rock dust all from around the world because they're bringing the stuff in from around the world. And it might be actually a free resource for you if you know somebody.
I would ask them for their lab tests. That you guys have a lab test. Because from my experience, I found that a lot of these could be very heavy in heavy metals, which is you don't want. You want to be breathing those things. So a lot of these things are not really tested for that. And when they're cutting, they're doing stuff like that. They may have heavy cadmium, for example, or heavy mercury, or heavy arsenic. So you want to see if it has that, then you definitely don't want to use that because then you're also passing that heavy metals into your garden, into your stuff, and you get a cut, you're dead. That kind of stuff, right? So you want to do a lab, have them give you a lab test, and they won't do it. I wouldn't use it then. But if usually like a marble. And there are a bunch of other products that are very good to use.
Well, a lot of American products are not allowed in Canada because they're too toxic. Yeah. And that's the same in Europe. We like a cereal grain that you would buy in Europe's got 2 things in it. And in the US and Canada, it's got 16 different things in it. And so the UK says, no, we don't want your product because it's too full of chemicals. That happens all the time with so many different types of products. It's amazing.
So I would just stick to buying it from people who have already tested the products and know that they have a good product to sell you, rather than you, because trust me, I did that already. I would stop in this quarry mining place, right? Hey, what's all this powder you got here? Oh, you can have all you want to. Well, let me see your lab. Well, it's heavy in arsenic, heavy in mercury, heavy in lead, and it's heavy towards toxic because they don't need to. It's not for human consumption or any of that stuff. It's for road work, for whatever they're building and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you have to really, really. I was not even bother doing it unless you know the people there. Because over here in Southern California, San Diego, there's a rock quarry for aluminum clays. They have a hot sulfur bath there, hot mud bath, and they dig it up and they sell it. And so it's dried up as 30% calcium, and they sell it as a rock dust. When it dries up, it's a nice powder. It's like you put it on your face, makeup, it's brown. People, that's what they do. They put it on their body. When it dries, it sucks the chemicals out. But you definitely have to be real careful and make sure that you're not bringing in more toxins than you really want to be dealing with. Like a limestone quarry, again, Scotty, I would have them check. Give me a lab report. Tell them, listen, I want to.
He lives so close, he's just getting dust all the time. But you talked about dust and rock dust in when you were a kid. You had went and you couldn't believe the one field was just so beautiful, and across the road there was a rock quarry, and it was getting the sand blowing across, which is your rock dust. So yes, there is the problem with high levels of these compounds, but if you're putting it in with biology, the biology is going to break those compounds down. Don't put it directly on your food crops, but you can put it on your perennial crops, roses, etc., and not have those worries in that way.
The main thing would be handling it.
Breathing it in.
Breathing it in, getting into your body. You have a cut. It's always better to make sure that you're not handling something that's toxic, because a lot of times these things are, the way because they're not being. Nobody's looking out to make sure they're not, right? Who would think
in your industry, Andy, the guys that are out there spraying wearing hazmat suits because they're spraying these harsh chemicals, yet you can go to the bloody Walmart or Home Depot or all these different places, buy the same stuff off the shelf. Nobody tells you need a hazmat suit before you start spraying it.
I know the whole thing is kind of weird. So the thing to the subject is to if you have a garden, do it yourself. Make the compost. Learn how to make compost. Learn how to get different sources of trace minerals into your compost. You'll find that if you add too much, if you're doing things with the worms, you have to be real careful with worms, because worms do not like rock dust. Rock dust is basically too alkaline. It's too damaging to the soil. So you have to go lightly with the rock dust. I've always learned from experience, instead of putting rock dust in the ground, you put it in the compost. Even then, you're talking about a 10 yards of compost. You're lucky maybe if you have 40 pounds of rock dust in there. Maybe it's more like 20 pounds will be more than enough, especially if you spread it evenly throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So it's a trace mineral thing, and then you also want to be able to learn how to get. Ideally, if you have your own place, you want to learn what weeds do, what kind of plants you have that are bringing in the minerals. So you want to use those. You want to learn to compost those plants. See, right?
And like we say, weeds are medicinal plants for your soil. That's why, if you have the opportunity to compost the weeds from your property, it's because those seeds and weeds are growing there because it's drawing stuff up to feed your soil. So compost that. Break those particles down using the biology, add that back into your soil, and you're going to get rid of those weeds because they don't need to grow anymore.
So I have weeds coming up in the garden. A few friends of mine would volunteer to pull the weeds up, and I says, no, let the weeds grow. I want them to go through their whole cycle and then die right there and return right to the ground, and they do an amazing job. They will grow there, but nothing else will grow. The root system will go down to this stuff and aerate it for me. So it's I love weeds, and I don't call them weeds. It's just my part of my garden and allies. They really help my vegetable garden. My garden's coming along much better. as I increase the biology, as I increase the more roots. So lately, I've been doing a wide, again, the wider variety of plants you have in your garden, the wider variety of trace minerals you're going to have in your garden.
Yeah, more roots in the soil is a key, guys.
Yeah, instead of roots, instead of boots in the ground, we call them roots in the soil.
Yeah.
And the more roots you have, the more different types of biology you have, and the more different types of trace minerals you're going to have.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as that. In Mother Nature, in the forest, you don't have not one thing growing. You have an endless variety of stuff, and therefore you have an endless variety of biology and endless variety of trace minerals. Mm-hmm. Each biology will specialize in bringing to you a certain trace mineral. That's what it comes down to. That's what it just comes down to. You want to have everybody doing their thing, and you'll find that all you have to do is, in a general way, eliminate the toxins that are coming into your system, increase the biology that's coming into your system, because things are constantly killing it all the time, and increase your mineral sources so they come regularly rather than you do it once every 10 years. Yeah. So that's why I find when I spray, I'm constantly providing biology and trace minerals every time.
Well, in your environment in Malibu, especially with what you're doing, because all the gardeners are pulling the organic material off. If we're leaving that there, and you're adding all that biology and all those trace minerals, my God, Andy, the beautiful gardens that they would have, so much better than they are now. You got to teach them, brother. You just got to keep teaching people.
And it does happen. It does happen. There are a couple of places you walk in, you go, what the heck is going on here? And the lady says, no chemicals are used here at all. I do not allow the gardener to bring anything here that's not natural. We don't cut anything. The grass is cut 4 inches and it goes right over there into another pile.
Yeah.
The farm where I'm working at now, I'm teaching, why are you throwing everything away? You have to stop doing that. So we're getting a shredder. They have horses, and we're going to be showing them how they can shred everything up together. And we're going to get some latent compost, add that to it. Malibu, like most cities, don't let you compost because you have animals, you have manure. They're afraid that all the manure is going to end up in the ocean. So, but if you can show them that you can do this without any of this problem, the cities will learn from it. Because that's my goal, is to teach the city how they can help other people to compost and make their property healthy without. They throw billions of pounds of animal manure away all the time, horse manure, whatever, cattle, you name it, throw it away. It should be a law that they should compost it, learn how to properly compost it, because that's the key to it. If you can compost it and all that stuff comes into your environment, your compost turns all the different sources of biology get together, they turn everything up. You can have an amazing soup, and that's what you want.
Yep.
And you won't have any problem at all because you'll have it covered. And that's in the long run, rather than say, okay, what do I need to do for this disease? You have to say, what do I need to do to make everything so happy and healthy? There's no disease is going to make it through it, let alone get established. And that's the key to it. That's the key you have to. And if you follow that philosophy for yourself too, so when you eat, you need to learn to eat things that are beneficial for your biology, right? For your soil and your soul, right? You know what I mean? So that you can all be more sustainable. And that's a tough one too, because we have so much toxins. We're constantly ingesting, constantly taking our bodies toxins. And it's very difficult on the body to be happy and healthy if you're constantly putting, same thing with the soil. So we have to look at it like, gee, all these things are happening to me and all these things are happening to my soil. So I think there is a connection.
Yeah.
Right? There's a connection. You have to learn how, what you make happen to your body, you can make happen to the soil's body.
Yeah.
Right. If
your microbiome and the soil microbiome there's no real difference other than the nutrients that our bodies needs are a little bit different than what our plants need.
The difference is evolution. We have evolved. These things have evolved this way. These things have evolved that way, but we still communicate. We still are the same type of beings. And that's what we need to understand. And once you get this together, and you'll find that your neighbor's doing it, their neighbor's doing it, the city is doing it, then you find that your country is doing it, your state's doing it, because it has to be done in a large quantity. You have to have enough of us doing the same thing to make an overall difference. Because if you're the only one that has an organic garden, everybody has chemicals, you're going to have a real hard time getting your garden to grow, because you're going to be flooded with chemicals all the time, all the way around. See,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it starts as a grassroots effort, one garden at a time, one farmer at a time, to help to change. And then you got to get into, the political sphere, whether it's, your town, your county, your state, etc., to help change things. Like, once you understand this stuff, guys, if you have the opportunity to go out and sit in those council meetings, please do that. It's all of us getting together and teaching everybody else that's going to save not only us, but your children, your grandchildren. It's caring, sharing in community. So become part of that community, become part of those garden clubs, speak at those garden clubs if you have the opportunity, share the information. That's why I say one lit candle can light many without ever diminishing its own light. So become candles like Andy is, and like I am, what Leighton is. We're just trying to share information and understanding the why behind how the system works. That, if we don't have that biology along with those trace minerals, you can have 1,000 pounds of trace minerals, but without the biology to use them up and, put them into those plants, you're not going to have anything. So, guys, Andy, do you want to do a draw this week, or do you want to wait for next week?
You read my mind. I was going to. We went right through that one.
Well, we got 8 minutes left. I don't know. Do you want to forget it for this week, or do you want to do a draw?
Go ahead. I'm still working on sending everybody else their book out.
Okay, so then I'm just going to click. I clicked on the wrong one. StreamYard giveaway tool. So, guys, we're going to be doing hashtag compost again, but let me get it set up before you start putting it in. So, hashtag compost and start collecting comments. Okay, guys, just start putting in hashtag compost live chat, and I'll flash that up. Okay, we've got our first entry. Adam Mays is the first one to get hashtag compost in. So we keep going for a few minutes and we'll do the draw at the end, guys. So get hashtag compost into the live chat so that you have a chance to win Andy's book. Okay, so, and then Andy's even entering. Okay, so if Andy draws, then we're really in trouble. Okay.
I get the Mercedes.
What's that?
I get the Mercedes.
Oh, you get to buy yourself a Mercedes.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if I put my name in and I win, you're gonna buy me a Mercedes, Andy?
No, you have to buy your own Mercedes. That's the way it works. You gotta buy your own Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
Gee whiz, right?
I think we all need to be on top of what we need and what we understand.
Yeah.
And a hashtag compost is an easy one, guys, because that's what we keep telling you, to create your own compost, use the trace minerals, get them in there, and then myself personally, I would take that compost, I would put it into a worm bin, feed my worms, because then you're going to get vermicompost, which is actually a next level of compost. And he uses worm tea or worm exudates that he makes himself, and that's what he is putting out to his clients in Malibu. So this stuff works, guys. There's so much evidence across the board of all these different methodologies, whether it's Korean natural farming, lasagna, etc.
Lasagna? What is that?
It's layers. It's the lasagna systems, just like making a layered compost.
Okay.
And guys, it all boils down to how a cell divides, and that's controlled by biology. It's the biology that builds the cell. It's the biology that collects all the components for the cell. So if you're focused on all these different aspects, as long as you're using a methodology that promotes putting live biology back into a system, it's a good system. So use that just more and more and more. So Andy, well, I went off on a tangent there, so I'm going to look back through the system here. So you start talking.
I have no idea what you're talking about, man.
I'm talking about life in general, and
no, I agree with you, brother.
We have to get in one of these days. We're going to get into intention and the energetic side of all this. I was threatening to do a show with Dennis Meehan and his boys.
Intention is everything. Intention is everything. That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key to making everything manifest. That's the key to listening to how what Mother Nature tells you, and then you can manifest. But if you don't have the intention, forget it.
Yeah. Well, like Leighton was talking on Monday's show, where looking at a microscope, and if you've got the wrong intention, you've got the wrong mindset, you see different things than if you have the right intention. So it's as simple as that. Like, don't go into your garden when you're all mad and frustrated. Go in there and sit down and breathe and relax and put yourself in the right frame of mind, a positive frame of mind. Your plants are going to do so much better. That's why people make Zen gardens, so they can go and meditate and get in touch with that energy and frequency, that vibration around them. It's so important to have that.
You know that when I talk about doing gem elixirs, and structured water, intention can very easily structure your water. You can use just by having the right intention, you structure your water that you can use. You know that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You don't need any instrument or anything at all.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks, Scotty, for reminding me to bring that up. Everybody in Canada, we've already had our Thanksgiving, but for you guys south of us, have a happy Thanksgiving.
So push the button, see who won.
Push the button and see who won. Has everybody got in #compost, guys? #compost. I'll give you 10 seconds, and of course, there's always a lag. So 1001, 1002, 1003. What?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna hit the button, guys. Let's see what happens. Who's gonna win today's book? And if it's Andy, we're gonna give him a hard time. No. Margaret Harrison. Congratulations, Margaret. You need to send me an email at itsallaboutthebiology@gmail.com. So the name of the channel, It's All About the Biology @gmail.com. Make sure you include your address and your phone number. I'll send that off to Andy, and when Andy gets his butt off the couch there, he'll send you his book. So congratulations, Marguerite. And then there's Andy, Mr. Lopez. So we're going to end it here, guys, with the winner, and we're not sure what we're talking about next week.
No idea.
Andy's got a bunch of topics in his head that he wants to talk about, so you'll just have to stay tuned for Tuesday. We put out the show, or the prelude to the show, so you guys will know on Tuesday. Andy,
thank you.
You got anything to say, brother?
Nope. Bye now, guys. Take care. See you next week.
All right, guys. Peace out.